Welcome to 843 TV. I'm your host, Wayne Morris with WHHI TV.
And I'm your host, Carrie Manning from the Village Spa.
And today we're coming to you from the Spring Island River House. It's going to be an all Spring Island panel. Our first guest is Peter Drake. He is a member here on Spring Island, and he's been here for about 8 years.
And then our next guest is Mr. Troy Shaver. He is also a member here on Spring Island, and he was one of the first.
And our final guest is John Strother. He's the broker in charge here, and he's going to give us 2 real estate features that are fantastic. It's going to be a great show. Stay with us. 843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
.843 TV, where Bluffton comes to speak.
Where Spring Island comes to speak.
Where Hilton Head Island comes to speak.
Where Port Royal comes to speak.
.843 TV,
where communities come to speak.
Welcome to 843 TV. We're here this morning with Mr. Peter Drake. He's a member here at Spring Island. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, thank you for being with us. Let's start with telling everybody a little bit about how did you hear about Spring Island?
My career was a career in education, and I was an administrator and a teacher for my full time. I retired in 2011. About 10 years ago, I was heading a school in Boston. And it was a boarding school, K through 9, and we had kids from all over the world, and I was in Bermuda at one juncture, and we were having a reception for our families, for our alumni, and for our parents. And lo and behold, I met an alumnus who asked what I was up to, and I asked what he was up to, and the conversation got to his plans for retirement, and he had mentioned he had bought a house in Spring Island. And I hadn't heard of Spring Island, and I thought, wow, why would somebody from Bermuda ever buy a house at Spring Island,
where
the climate is so close to Bermuda's climate, really, in terms of the seasons. And I thought maybe he'd be thinking New England or something like that. And we were down in Hilton Head about a year later, and we thought, let's take a little spin over there, and we came over here and we were hooked.
I can see why.
Dated.
What hooked you? I mean, what did y'all like about
We liked the culture of the place, first and foremost. We drove in here, and it was more low-key than a lot of places. The houses were they were understated. The houses were lovely but understated. We saw immediately that there was a sense of community here. We loved the idea of even having the mail room, the way it's set up, where everybody comes together, picks up the mail at the same place, where people will get to know one another. We saw it was more than a golf community. And the people we met were obviously so passionate about the place that it just was such a natural feel for us. It wasn't hard to fall in love with it, I can tell you that.
That's not a hard thing to do, for sure.
Peter, did you buy a home on your first visit?
Our first visit, we didn't buy a home, but we bought a lot. We always had looked, and wherever we had gone, we looked in the Southwest, we had looked in Florida, thinking about when the time comes. And we were so enamored with it from this visit that we got on the plane on the way home, and we had seen a number of lots, and it was a lot that sort of caught our eye that we particularly liked, and we looked at each other, and we were both in agreement. We said, this is what we want to do. So we bought the lot with the idea that we would build later.
So you've been here about 8 years, you were telling us earlier, and your plans have been evolving over time to where you are today. So kind of walk us through that evolution of your time here and how you spend it with properties that you've owned.
Okay, it's quite convoluted, as a matter of fact. Initially, we had the lot. We actually contracted to work with an architect who was terrific. Was interestingly enough the same architect that the Bermudian had suggested, and we had plans drawn up for a main house and a guest house. And the more we thought about it, I was sort of approaching the time of retirement. We thought it would be really nice to see whether this is where we really wanted to be. We thought we'd like to overlook the main house construction, so we built a guest house. And with that guest house, we fell in love with the guest house. So 2 years later, we actually added to the guest house and really added mostly storage because we didn't have the room that we needed, a garage, a master bedroom suite. And then ultimately, we've looked at Spring Island as being the place we want to be year-round, so we're selling our place up north, and we've decided we want to get something still larger. So we actually have bought another home here on Spring Island, and we sold the cottage, which we loved.
Yeah, that's a cool little evolution. You know, you kind of dipped your toe in the water and made sure it's what you wanted, and then gradually took the steps to where you are now.
It felt really, really good to us. The whole procedure was ideal in our mind. It worked nicely.
I think it's neat that Peter Brower designed the cottage, right? And then
He sure did.
then you bought a house that he designed also.
And we're doing some renovations to that right now. We're in boxes right now and living in the guest house, and he's doing the oversight of our redesign. He's an outstanding architect, so we really like. He's great working with small spaces, and in any space he's got a good eye.
Well, I know that we had more response to your cottage when we put that on our website than any other house that we've actually put on there. It was, it was just choose a button and perfect. Yeah.
Good design goes a long way.
It does. Yeah, it really does. And,
Well, other than all of your building projects since you've been here, obviously, I think anybody that's ever built knows that that's taxing and that keeps you busy. But what else do you guys do to stay busy now that you're retired here on the island?
Well, we've always loved golf, and Nancy and I probably get on the golf course probably an average of 5 times a week, and we'll play either 9 holes or 18, usually 9 holes. And what's really nice about the golf is that you can go out without making it a tee time well in advance.
Right.
And we're not people who like to sort of plan your week and say, on Tuesday afternoon I'm going to get a tee time at 2. We call up that morning, and invariably there's a slot which fits well for us. So the golf is important. I've actually picked up tennis, where I love tennis as a younger person. I'd given up the game for many years, and Nancy had too. And we've gotten sort of reacclimated with tennis, and it's a great tennis program here. Larry Angus, the pro, is outstanding. So that really works well, and it's great for people of all levels, and there's a good community spirit to the tennis program. And another thing I got into was boating. I grew up in Maine on the coast, and we had our access to the water. My dad had a boat, and we did cruising and one thing or another, and I had been away from it, and I had an opportunity to buy a little whaler here, and I've actually upgraded my whaler now, so I have something as a 21-footer, and we go to Beaufort, and we go to even as far as Defusky Island, and it's just great to be able to get out in the marsh and do a trip around the island, or a trip out to dinner in Beaufort.
I don't think you get the full effect of the area until you get out on the water.
It's unbelievable, and Spring Island itself does such a good job of making the boating work because it's incredibly reasonable. You can get dock space here at a very reasonable rate. My friends up north are just absolutely wowed when I tell them how much we pay monthly to have our boat here. It's terrific.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
it's a real pleasure.
Well, it's a beautiful place. I've been hooked since I came here the first time. Well, we've run out of time, so thank you for being with us, and make sure that you come right back for more 843 TV.
3 weeks.